Well, I know that we're not going to since it actually was active.
2 minutes.
I am too, but we'll wait, yeah.
Pretty good.
We need to wait. Reminder for citizens, if you want to speak, there's one. If you're not on the agenda or associated with the agenda, there's cards over there if you'd like to speak. Just a reminder. Okay. Good to go. All right. We'll call to order the Board of Mayor and Alderman meeting for the town of Unicoi, regular meeting for Monday, July 17th, 2023. We will have our invocation by Reverend Eddie Blazer, and then I will lead us in the pledge. If everyone would stand, please.
Heavenly Father, we thank you so much today for your tremendous love and grace. Thank you, Lord, for all that you mean to us today. Lord, I pray that proceedings of this meeting, Lord, will be under the direction of your hand. Father, we'll give you praise for all you do. In Jesus' name, amen.
All right. Salute to the flag. Attention. Salute. Pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you and welcome everyone. Ms. Kessler, if you'll call roll, please.
Alderman Lynn. Here. Alderman McIntyre.
Yes.
Alderman Radford. Here. Alderman Kugel.
Here.
Mayor Lowell.
Here. And once again, if someone has not gotten one of our little cards to write your name on, if you'd like to speak on something not on the agenda, those are available over here at the table. And while anyone may get one of those, Alderman, we can consider approval of the minutes from the June 19th BMA meeting, which are included in your packet. I will assume y'all have had time to review. Need a motion and a second?
Motion to approve. Second.
Motion and a second. Is there any discussion about those minutes? All right, hearing none, let's vote, please.
Alderman Rhodes. Yes. Alderman McIntyre.
Yes.
Alderman Radford.
Yes.
Vice Mayor Cooper.
Yes.
Mayor Wolf.
Yes. Okay, now is opportunity for citizens. Has there been anything submitted to the town by email? Oh, well, from outside or earlier, that's okay, that's okay. Nothing previously submitted, but we have had one submitted here tonight. Okay, let's go ahead with
Bill
that.
Paulson.
Good evening, folks. My name is Bill Collis, and I live up in Suntree up on the top of the hill. Friday morning, I was presented with an interesting situation on my way to the gym. And that was about 2 feet of water that occupied most of the Wiseman parking lot, and where the new culvert was put in, had completely stalled traffic. Well, I took a look at that, and then I drove the other way and saw there was water running down Garland, and I said, okay, somebody's trying to tell me something. So I went and got my Kubota and my plow, and I came down Marbleton Road, and I plowed the rocks that had washed down from Vance's gutter there, and put them up, and then I drove up down the road to see if I could help out where the flood was, and ran into, amongst other folks, Jeremy Rice, one of your officers, the chief a little later on, and Terry Haynes, whom I've known for, gosh, I don't know, as long as I've probably been here, because I was the bailiff for the courthouse when his office was across the hall. So we had an opportunity to chat. So, you know, I told him I was going to help him out, and I did a little plowing, not much. Pushed some of the small stuff in to the side of the road, and he informed me at that time that he was no longer in charge of or had responsibility for anything other than Employee Drive and Martinton Circle, that everything else was now the town's responsibility, and I thought that was somewhat unusual. So I understand there's an interlocal agreement that's going to be discussed tonight, but I found it kind of interesting since we don't have people with chainsaws. I know because I've cleared some of the roads around here with mine and with my Kubota, and we don't have any road repair. We don't have anybody picking up. We don't have anybody picking up animals. So, you know, I'm trying to figure out what the hell's going on. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Any others from you? No. Okay, all right. Moving on, the next item on the agenda, there were representatives of the animal shelter were planning to be here tonight. They are aware that one of our annual allocations had been to a food bank down in the town of Unicoi, but they have ceased operation. So that freed up a little bit of allocation, and the work that Chief Nick and I have been doing with the animal shelter are aware of their some lack of communications abilities for their animal control officers. In conversation, we decided that we were going to issue a check that would have gone to the food bank that no longer exists, $1,500 to the animal shelter to upgrade the animal control officers' cell phones so that they can actually take pictures. They've got a flip phone right now. So they can take pictures, they can do a video, they can hopefully transmit, get a little better service in some other areas. Service is still not going to be great for them in every area, but this will definitely be a step up for their ability to at least photograph, document what they're doing, where they are, and, you know, are they safe or not. So this check is going to go to the animal shelter, $1,500 to help them out. So, all right, having that done, we have received a letter from the comptroller's office that our budget has been approved. Thank you. Debbie Bennett, excuse me, Debbie Kessler.
You're welcome.
And I know Tiffany helped some with that as well. But board, Debbie Lemon, all the way down, that we weren't able to put together a budget that we could all agree on and get passed and get sent to the comptroller's office. So, this letter, I'm going to summarize it. This letter constitutes approval by the office for the town's fiscal year 2024 budget as adopted by the town's governing body. So we got it in, we got it in on time, and it is appropriate. So thank you particularly, Debbie Kessler, for all your hard work. And thank you, board, that we worked to come up with a budget that we could agree on. Thank you, thank you. Okay. All right. I have a percentage of towns that don't get their budgets in. And it's just astronomical. I mean, it's a lot. They don't get their budgets in. So anyway, just that being said, thank you. All right, 10 on the agenda is old business. We will have further discussion on an interlocal agreement between the town of Unicoi and Unicoi County concerning provision of street maintenance services by the county through the highway department for the roads in the town of Unicoi. Now, we have had some discussion regarding this at our last meeting. That discussion is reflected in the minutes that we just approved. Before we were able to bring this to this meeting, Ms. Kessler received an updated version, but there really was very little change in there. There was primarily one sentence added, and that sentence added said,
I think there
All-
was section 3
or-
new.
or 2, all other roads to be maintained by the town of Unicoi. I don't remember that being in there, but 3, the town of Unicoi shall only contact the county highway department for work or projects after the town of Unicoi has inspected all requests made by the citizens of the town. Currently, because citizens reside in this county and they pay county taxes, they have exercised a freedom, a right to make direct contact with Terry Haynes regarding projects and issues on roads. He doesn't want that to happen anymore. He wants everything to come through the town. That's one of his requests. But even, well, I guess we need a motion for me to continue to discuss.
I make a motion.
Second.
Okay, motion and a second. This agreement that they have sent, even though there's minor changes, is basically the same document that has been signed by the town for a number of years. There is a list of roads in here, maintenance of municipal street, I'm reading on number 2. Maintenance of municipal streets and roadways, including snow removal, ditching, and mowing. Unicoi Drive, Marbleton Road, Zane Whitson, and Whispering Pines. All other roads will be maintained by the town of Unicoi. Now, we just paid him, or we haven't paid him yet, but he went and cleaned out ditches along Massachusetts. Did we not? For the school system, they call
I know that we've talked to him about it. I don't know if he's done it or not.
but he said he would go do it.
Yeah, he did say he.
Okay, well, that's not one of the roads on his list. My point being, he has done other services that are not strictly adherent to this policy or this agreement that he's asking us to sign. Does that make sense? You see
And he
the
also
point?
made the statement that, Myers Bridge and what he did on Springbrook, even though he did it in July, he would charge the town at the old rate, not the new rate.
Because we haven't signed it.
No,
Just-
just because it was started
Okay, oh, started.
in the previous fiscal year.
Okay.
And he didn't get finished.
So we've had a lot of discussion already related to this agreement. I'm just throwing that out there for y'all to consider. We don't have the equipment to pave roads, lay asphalt. We don't have those things. And even with this agreement, it doesn't mean we're locked in. This is not a sole proprietor agreement. But this is our primary resource for road work and road maintenance. Does that make sense? That's my take on it. Okay? So, any other discussion by the board?
Well, in looking at the package, it brings up a lot of questions. The first one, and I'm looking at the first one here,
Yes.
for this page. The second paragraph, first sentence. This list is what the Tennessee Comptroller's Office requires us to charge for any non-Unicoi County Highway Department services. And the term non-Unicoi County is confusing to me since we are in Unicoi County. And where is that separation and why? And I'm sure that there's something somewhere, as I'm trying to find what exactly he's talking about for non-Unicoi County Highway Department services. Also, I guess the question in holidays and things, whenever we have snow days, that we're expected to pay time and a half for salaries. And I understand they only get, their income is for gas charges. This seems a little over the top. It says here also, this document, let's see, I included this. This is the document we are required to use to charge for our employees' hourly services. The recommended benefit rate, and there's the word recommended. So that's interchangeable in here. Sometimes it says required and then it goes to recommended. It's my understanding that it is recommended by FEMA and that they have been charging us at a rate of 35% in the past, but it will increase to 53.30, which is a FEMA requirement, and then again says recommended. So requirements and recommended are two very different uses there. And I just have questions regarding the non-Unicoi County status. And another thing is that we are in his voting district, or in the voting district, and so I would assume through our property taxes and everything else that we're doing, that we would get some consideration for that. I mean, yeah. So those are my questions, but he's not here. So.
We had a little work session on it. And non-Unicoi County means the municipality of Berlin, the municipality of Unicoi.
Okay.
That's what those mean. Would y'all be in agreement? That's what I understand that.
Okay, and I wasn't at that meeting, so.
Yes.
With that, okay.
These upcharges attached to labor have been a point of contention for a bit. It's probably been 4 months ago that we first asked what those additional charges were. Would you agree, Debbie, and set up for the,
Well, I mean, they've always charged, the 35%.
that we questioned,
Right.
Where it's coming
from.
Yeah.
where it was coming from? And they didn't.
Yeah, that happened about 45
They,
minutes ago.
they could not tell us. They did not know. Terry did not know.
Well, it
Patty
kept saying
Treadway
that
had just moved
he was
out.
wanting- we were wanting to see something in writing that showed that, and that they couldn't find that.
Valerie couldn't find it. She was new in that position. And now this is what they've given us to explain.
Okay, it still opens the door for other questions that I will.
Well, another one is also applied, this same percentage is applied if they do anything in the town of Irwin.
Correct. And the town of Berlin rarely uses Terry Haynes to do anything. They contract most of their town.
Okay. All right, thank you for clarifying that. Then.
Now, and just again to say, this doesn't lock us into the county highway department as our only resource to work on roads or do projects. That this agreement does allow us to have them come to work with them as a resource to work on our projects. It retains them. That's the best word we got right there. It does retain their services for the town of Unicoi. It doesn't lock us in. Okay? All right, any further discussion?
One last question.
Yes, ma'am.
I believe at the last meeting, he was saying if there were any other comments made against him from any representative of the town of Unicoi, that we would not receive any services, is that correct?
I don't know if it was verbatim, but
Something,
there's a tone
well,
that goes with those words.
Okay.
Okay? Anybody else?
Well, we talked about it, like David, her questions were fine. And I'm not happy with it, but it's the way it is. We pay the county a lot of taxes. And I said, well, that's the way it is, it's the way it is, but everybody should know.
And they don't go directly to the highway department. Our property taxes go into the general fund. What did Mayor Ely say? $200,000 out of general fund goes to subsidize the highway
I
department.
realize that.
So, Anyway.
Mostly that's for the salary of the employees. That's the salary of the employees, that's it.
So, that's it said. All right, are we ready to vote? No more questions, go ahead.
Alderman Linden,
Yes.
Alderman McIntyre,
Yes.
Alderman Radford,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Cooper,
Yes.
Mayor Moore,
Yes. Okay, unfinished business, none, new business. Discussion and consideration to approve property transfer between the state, United States, and the town of Unicoi Law Enforcement Agency to accept excess property equipment from the Department of Defense. Now, Alderman, in your packet are some examples, some of the things that our police department has been able to acquire most recently. Anyway, this trailer. Chief Hughes, would you like to say anything else about this?
The greatest thing that we think y'all is they can post is, 2 on-board shooter, canary units, it's got all-board generator, it's got the washing cabinets with, lights on the outside canopies. We're going to the Strawberry District, Washington County, now we've got, we can utilize it for festivals, we can utilize it throughout the county. We bring all the sheriff's department, they need college will get to. It's a very nice piece of equipment. I think the generator had, what is like 415 hours of a Kubota diesel generator. It's really a very nice piece of machinery.
So the town's been able to acquire some really,
That's our
the town has been able to acquire some really quality items, have a lot of life left in them. And the expense being that we have to go get them. The going to get them is the expense. So, this, July 7th, they picked up July 23rd, for one of the items that they're showing here. The board does need to be aware, I guess, and the approval is for us to continue acquiring. This is going to be a policy about how we can acquire equipment.
No, we've already done that.
Well,
This is just to accept this piece of equipment.
This one. Now,
We've already
we
done
haven't
that.
done that. Have we done that for each of the others?
Yeah.
I don't know. Must be good.
They were several together.
Must have been.
Several trailers.
I'm not calling it individually. All right. Here's one more piece. Motion and second to approve this one.
It's like this in Iowa. Now, you go get that. It's our expense. What is the expense on a trip?
the fuel and motel stay. So I don't know the exact dollar amount we used on this one. I know the county, they have paid fuel also in May. So I would say, I said it's probably $700 for $10,000 trip.
Yeah, is that like an overnight trip or?
That was, most of them were on, most of them was like Fort Bragg, Cherry Point, Norfolk, some people, we try not to go far off. Once we discovered this one, it was a good asset and we felt we could benefit from it for the town. So that's why we went, we would not be doing. I think I told you far as, you know, these long trips like what we went there, I'm not willing to go that far unless it's just a great find. We can find black holes, track holes, those or stuff like that we can use. I say, yeah, we'll go that far. Most of the stuff, like I said, everything that we've got thus far has been, Fort Boat, Fort Bragg, and I want to say one of them was Cherry Point. So most of them were being East Coast, South Carolina, North Carolina. Most of them were day trip.
Okay, but you do have a record of exactly what it costs the town
Yes.
to retrieve that stuff.
Yes, we have record, all the receipts and stuff that we use is brought back. Tiffany does all of it. We have a form we fill out that has, you know, who went, who picked it up. It has everything on the.
All the sheets, okay. Because if anybody wants to know, we do have a record.
Correct. Yes, sir.
And it's just like me and you were talking, you know, I think you need to be here instead of out on the road, you know.
Correct.
So I think that's good.
And then, and then down the line, we have to own it for at least 1 year. Use it, own it for 1 year, and then if we choose to sell it, we can sell it. Okay, so, yeah, anyway, just saying. I mean, I think we can recoup our investment fairly easy if it turns out being something we don't really.
You got a question, what's the line number, or that money is coming out off to fund those trips?
My understanding is the fuel's coming out of my budget.
So everything is gonna come out of your budget.
Correct.
Okay, now the things you're getting, are we gonna have qualified people to operate it?
And if we get the equipment and stuff, I mean, that would be on the town qualified people to run it. Myself, yes, I'm qualified to run it, but like I said, that would be something I would feel that the board, the mayor, whoever is the operators to get a certification, know how to run that equipment, whatever.
I mean, that is a major concern, that we don't need to buy stuff we can't operate with our existing people.
Exactly. Well, that was, we, there's a paper that come up, and they just, we get up there, direct fine, but we're all the way out on Sanders on the road, maybe, I think it's gonna take 5 or 6 people. We've got 2 guys, so I mean, you know, that was something I turned down, but it's no sense us trying to get paper if we don't have, the people operating. You know, we bring it back here, set for a year, I mean, we know it's gonna run down and stuff, and we can do as much out of it. You know, there's some things that we've turned down, because it's not feasible for us to go and get, and, you know, have to pay a holiday or something. And some of this stuff is gonna take, you know, an 18-wheeler or something to get back in here. And, you know, I'm just not prepared to pay that kind of money to have shit back in here on these offshore agencies and stuff.
You know, one of the things we need to think about when we're getting stuff, the same thing I used to do at work, time, tools, and talent. We had a job coming up, I had to look at time, tools, and talent. We need to look at that before we buy stuff.
We're not just going after things willy-nilly. We're going after things we believe we can use and make things nice, employ.
We usually, well, every time we have pictures of the stuff that we're going to get, so there is, before we go, it's pretty much the mayor or they can say, hey, this is what we're going at. There was a truck that we had looked at, the pictures looked great, we got up there, no dashes, so we refused to get that. It's our decision on refusing the stuff once we get it.
Okay, any further discussion? All right, we've had a motion and a second, and more discussion, discuss our call for vote, please.
We did not have a motion or second.
Oh, I thought we did, I'm so sorry. I thought we did. May I have a motion and a second? I'll make a motion to accept the equipment, is there a second?
Second.
Motion and a second, we've already had our discussion. Ms. Kessler, you call for the vote?
Alderman Leonard?
Yes.
Alderman McIntyre?
Yes.
Alderman Bradford?
Yes.
Alderman Clifford?
Yes.
Mayor Bowe?
Yes. Next item on the agenda is Richard Allen Anderson to petition the town of Unicoi for the annexation of agricultural property located within the town of Unicoi city limits owned by Richard Allen Anderson. And this is the result of new legislation that was signed into law effective July 1st. Mr. Anderson is here, and I know that our attorney, Todd Hull, is working on this. I think this has boiled down to very specifically a legal issue with the law. With the law meaning both parties being acting in concordance with the law. So I'm not sure where we are.
Well, I had maybe put in public chapter 398, and everybody's package, so they can see for themselves what the, rule is. It's my understanding this man has 4 parcels of land, within the town of Unicoi. I believe some of that will not even apply to, the change in law. However, in talking, with everybody, unless I'm wrong, Mr. Anderson, correctly, that he was brought into the town during the incorporation. Is that correct?
When the town was incorporated, your property became part of the town when the town was first incorporated.
Yeah, I guess it was. In that case, my opinion is he does not qualify for the new exemption because it specifically says owners of real property, primary use for agricultural purposes who reside in territory previously annexed by ordinance. It was annexed by incorporation, which is a whole different mechanism. So, I believe the petition would not meet the qualifications for the code chapter to change in the law.
I think we're gonna have to, for suggestion, go back. I know that, Alexander worked really hard on this and pushed it. I might go back and ask her again for her interpretation. I know that it went back and forth between each house, the Senate and the
There were a
House.
couple of amendments and
Yeah.
stuff like that, so.
So I don't know how all that came out, but I think we're gonna have to go back and get an interpretation. I don't know where it happened that the wording ended as it is, but the wording on here right now, legally, I'm gonna agree with what Todd says, legally doesn't allow you to be annexed through this mechanism. Now, there may be another mechanism, but not through this one. And I've been told there are other mechanisms, but I'm not sure what those are.
Correct, the primary, in fact, the only way is the municipality can contract its own limits, so you can shrink the town to size if you wish to do that. There's a process to do that, you decide you want to bring the town limits in, you can do that, but that's going to be the same process as if you were trying to annex. So it has to be ordinance, public hearing, vote, those kind of things.
And you're leaning to hear us. Do you want to?
What Rod's saying.
Okay,
Okay, which, when this was voted in, that's when we became
part of the town.
part of the same thing. And so what you're saying is, if the town had gone out and annexed me 3 years after it was voted in, then
That new law will apply to you. But it says annexed by ordinance, not annexed by referendum or request of property owner.
which it started out as a referendum vote.
Yes, the corporation, correct.
Okay, I don't know, this may have to go back through the legislature again,
Or, yeah, it may need some adjustment.
You have the option of asking for the Attorney General's opinion.
Okay.
Kathy. Look at that.
The de-annexation of property does not create an area of unincorporated territory that is completely surrounded by municipal boundaries. No, it had to be on the outskirt, it had to be on the edge. So maybe some of the parcels maybe don't apply, but the parcels you thought applied were those that were on the outside boundary, correct?
Yeah, well, no, can't be a mile in.
Okay, well, that's how I thought it was gonna read as well. Okay,
And I, I can talk to Mr. Anderson, I didn't have a chance before the meeting, but I'm gonna have to sit down with Mr. Anderson and talk about the chapter, what chapter, all that.
Okay, you know, we'll
I'm,
get more clarification.
yeah, I know, I'm very aware, Mr. Anderson, this is something you've wanted for a number of years, and I know people in Nashville have been working on it for 2 to 3 years. I know the end goal is Mr. Anderson would like to be annexed from the town. That is the end goal. If this isn't going to be the path, if we get the Attorney General to give an explanation or give their interpretation, give an opinion on how this applies, and that doesn't look like it's gonna go, and you gotta start this whole legislative thing again, we may try to take a look at what this other avenue might be.
Okay, let me explain just how it is. Give people I'm fixing to put this farm into conservation easement. Summer favor's not going on, it's not gonna be no subdivision, it's gonna be a farm, 1,000 years or ever how long time lasts. I don't want to sell the property, I have no intention to sell the property, which getting involved with the Tennessee Land Trust, want to run that up on the computer and tell you what these people do. We have lost so much ground in this state to the migration that has come in, expansion everywhere and everything. That in middle Tennessee and west Tennessee, this land trust thing is a big thing. Because there's a lot of people that's been on these farms all their lives, and they don't want to see them in the subdivision or into industry or anything. And that's where I'm coming from on this. And then, it's just a safeguard, a land grant farm from 17 acres. That's what I'm, it's it, in which there could be farm building, agriculture, let me put it that way. If there were 2 or 3 barns built, that would be fine. But it would only be for agricultural use. There has no residential, no industrial, no nothing. Is it, and which this is not a cheap endeavor. This is tens of thousands of dollars, folks, we're fixing to put in to. But they can take this land. They have no problem taking you to court if owner Z over here takes that place all into bad repair, drove up, etc. They make the person that owns the property keep it as it is right now. But that's what's gonna happen, regardless if I'm not de-annexed, it's gonna happen if I am de-annexed. So all I'm waiting on right now is Doug Treadway get my survey done, and they have to have a huge survey. But I will find out about
How this language
language
ended up, yeah.
and if it has to go back to the legislature, we'll go back. No problem. It's 5 months from meeting.
Do it.
Do it again.
I know you've been working on this. All right,
Thank you.
we'll keep at it. Thank you for coming.
May we be excused? We can go on.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Thank you, ladies.
Have a good evening. Yeah. That we can do. All right, y'all be careful. All right, then C, discussion and consideration of the selection of a quote for the replacement roof on the Bogart Bowman cabin, and utility building roof. And those have been included either in your packet or you've had a document, dropped off at your spot. There were some adjustments we were wanting to see, I think in the original estimates. Mainly none of them included the bathroom, other than the building. They all include that now. I think there might have been a couple other minor adjustments, and you see the final disposition of those quotes now and what they look like. So, we've talked about this for a bit, that both those roofs need to be replaced, they're leaking. So, I'll entertain a motion in a second to consider this. Everybody speaking research.
My question, we didn't make
How about a motion and a second?
motion to.
Okay, we got a motion. Anybody want to second that, please, and we'll begin discussion?
Second.
All right. Motion and a second. Let's begin discussion. All in favor?
Okay, on the Davis, on our packet here, and it's still about the same price as the total quote was the 20,470, well, the 14,970, and that did not include lumber. Where the next one Robertson's done did, you know, and that was, it was like 3,700 and some dollars difference in those two quotes.
Okay, it should have been 3669.30 on this right here.
36,
I was talking about the
Davis.
Davis, I was talking about the top one on Davis on just the main building.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, okay, and on the old packet that we got, and then on the new one, it's still got the same price. And on, it says it does not include the cost of lumber, and the difference between the Robinsons and that was, where they had theirs for 18, was like $3,700, and that would include the lumber. Was lumber supposed to be in there, or, you know, what would be the difference?
Well, it's, you know,
We don't know how much lumber they need until they got into it. It's my understanding.
But the Robinson went ahead and put theirs in, Greg Baker's done theirs.
so we went in for the
And
next
it's
one.
like $3,700 off. So I don't know if that would be a fair amount of what lumber is, or you know, the difference in the price.
well, I guess he was quoting probably the lumber and the labor. You know, because see, what he was gonna do was
You're
lab
talking
it.
about the Roberts?
Yeah, it was gonna lab it out where the other companies weren't. And then they had down if they needed to replace lumber. So, you know, that was like a question mark there.
And,
But they didn't have where they were gonna lab the roof, you know.
and Roberts is the only one that quoted that.
Yes. And I think
So that makes their quote
And then.
different
and
than
then
the
job,
others.
Because the others left open how much we would have to pay for labor
Yeah.
if we did.
Yeah.
This one's telling you that's not the whole complete job. And it's $3,700 difference, I think.
And there's really no question marks about it.
Right.
And if he labs it out, he'll lab it out in yellow pine, it's kiln dried. And, you won't have to worry about the screws, you will back it out of it, like you do with OSB board, you know. I mean, that's the way he likes to do it, you know. But, I mean, there's no question marks about it, where the other company will have question marks if they needed to do.
Yeah.
Like the 1-6-475 foot.
Would anyone like to make a motion?
Well, the thing that I looked
Oh, we
at,
did already. I'm so sorry, I want to get on this.
thing that I looked at, we budgeted $23,592. I think I'm right, Diddy, right?
I'm sorry,
We budgeted $23,592 to the cabin,
right.
right? And
And there's a few more line items in that budget that if you need to, you know.
Right, but-
then you could.
but I'm just saying, we did budget that amount. And if you look at Robertson Son, I'm not against them at all, but if you do both of those, you're at 24,000. And mainly at the time we did this 23,592, it was just on the main cabin roof.
Wasn't on the bathroom.
Yes, that is correct. I guess I'm sitting here thinking, do we do one, then wait to do the other, or what do we do here? Because we're going to exceed our budget as we started originally intended.
But there is enough in that section, in that, for the cabin,
Yeah.
that you could, move some money
Move
to
money,
make that bill 24,140. And also, on the Snyder money, if you go back to, when it went before the judge, Chancellor Rambo, and you do the 10% for that 22 fiscal year, and then the 10% for 23, you come up with about 24,079.
Right.
That would cover that as well.
But we'll basically use most of it
Yeah.
that we have. We won't
Yeah,
have
if you go with the middle one, but you're still covered with the middle one.
right, but we won't have much left in the budget for the cabin.
So, there you are.
Not a lot.
But once they're doing that job and the bathroom is leaking just as bad or worse, then it's better. just to
Well,
get
I'm not
the
opposed,
bathroom.
I'm just bringing out the dollars so everybody knows
Yeah.
where we are.
And also, you know, I think we had budgeted in there for a security system. And I don't know that we really need a security system at the cabin, maybe a camera, but I don't think about a security system. So we budgeted that the last few years, so that's another line item that we could pull some money from.
Again, I'm not opposed to either one, I'm just bringing out what we did budget, and we won't have much left once if we approve Robertson Son, that's just,
Yeah.
I'm not complaining at all.
Okay, so I'm gonna stumble here a little bit to say we have a motion and a second to consider that we need to actually select. So our motion needs to be specific for the quote. So what do we do with our motion and second that we have on the table just to consider?
Well, this discussion and consideration, which means you want to vote on it.
Okay,
We're picking-
it's gonna include the selection. Okay, all right, I just wanna make sure we weren't leaving one line. I would suggest we go with Roberts. What's my contribution?
Why don't
to the
we-
conversation?
I'll amend our original motion that we can spend up to 24,140 to do both, and then you've got a choice, Mayor, between one.
The 24,140 is an estimate and our
It says total
city,
work.
but it's a quote,
Mhm.
It could come in less, it could go a little bit more, they're quotes.
Uh,
They're quotes. You don't know what else they're gonna find. I don't think we need to limit ourselves. I don't think we need to limit ourselves to a dollar amount. I think we need to go with who we think is gonna do the best job that is within range of having the financial coverage that we have. We're okay. There's no guarantee that he is gonna come in right with $24,140.
Well, the way I look at it is, if he quotes 24,140, it's 24,140, period.
Yeah, and
What if he gets into
I
something
think it's that he would hold that, you know? I mean, because he's got everything down. And, you know, I mean, he does this all the time, so, I mean, if we say, okay, he's the man, then, you know, that would be,
And I don't think you need to put an amount on it either. You're selecting who you want to do the job.
based on their quote.
Well, I tell you what, I've wrote a lot of contracts in my life, and I always had not to exceed figure on every one. I don't like us going out with a blank check and saying, we're gonna get it covered and, whatever comes in will pay it. We don't need to do that, folks. If they're quoted 24,140, we gotta go with that.
And I would stick with that. I would say that. Say, this is what you quoted, you got the job.
That's right.
Because I mean, he bids a lot of jobs and that's his business. And I don't think that he would come back and say, well, it's 25,000. You know. And really, it's like the ladder and stuff, that, he's put that in there where nobody else did. So that, you know, that shows that that's the way he likes to do the job and do it properly. But I mean, I don't think, you know, you say, okay, if you get the job, that's it, okay?
Job for that amount of money that you quoted us. Okay, so
You know,
You
it's-
made
it's
the
workers'
original
comp,
motion, so I think you
everything.
need to make the amendment.
you made the motion.
Oh,
And then he made, I made the motion to consider, then you said, then you went with Robert, you made the motion for Robert, and he wanted to do something.
I didn't make a motion, I suggested. You amend your motion to award the contract to Robert, and then Debbie can amend hers.
Okay, I'm
One
gonna-
more time, what now?
We're amending your motion, we're amending Lana's motion to award the discussion, to award the contract to Roberts.
Okay.
Okay, and then if you have opportunity to second or
My-
call your section.
Well, my
Your second.
second was when we were talking about the discussion.
Right, you can withdraw it, or you can second if you like the Roberts.
I will withdraw the motion to put in Roberts and Son to do that as completed total of $24,180.
Second.
I need to point out that the Robinson estimate, so this will be where the legality of.
Yeah.
What's it really-
That's what I'm saying, he could get into something he doesn't even know is there, and it end up costing more. So I don't think putting a dollar limit either is accurate, I just don't think that's. But here we are, hung up on the semantics of this one.
As what he told us without.
We're going to accept his quote.
Yeah.
And it's just like I said before, he lives here. You know, he has to drive by, he has to put up with it. It's not like we're gonna call somebody, you know, I mean, to me, that means a lot, you know, but.
Okay, now we're hung up though now.
Okay, we've had a.
We're hung up on the dollar amount.
Okay, we've had a motion and a second. I'm calling for previous question, which means we vote on it.
Alderman Lennon,
Yes.
Alderman McIntyre.
Yes.
Alderman Radford,
Yes.
Councilman Cooper,
Yes.
Mayor Moore.
Yes, so let me just, what's the clarification there, Mr. Hall? If he ends up in some kind of situation where the supply chain breaks down and something costs him a whole lot more to get, or he finds something else that he has to go add on to repair, and this has to change this dollar amount, do we have to come back to the board? We can't just work that out with him, we have to come back to the board to make another adjustment, if an adjustment is needed?
The way he's written this up, you know, everybody got their own format on how they do their bids. I'm sure Kevin, Roger, you know, in their experience, but I would anticipate he would come back with something in the sign. And that, wherever you sign for acceptance, will how to dictate the terms of what happens if he moves forward.
Not this, that, this, the document. Okay, all right.
If you look at Armory proposal versus their proposal, I mean, his basically, this is what I think it's gonna cost. I think there's not really a place to accept the contract, so to speak, as you do on the other one.
Okay, we'll see what happens, maybe it'll all work out, we won't need an adjustment. We're going on, okay, all right, we're good. We'll have to figure that one out when we get there, I guess, if we get there. All right, so we got a lot of pages in this packet. We'll look at those. Discussion and possible action on phase 1 of the Massachusetts Road Project. Vice Mayor Whitmer.
Didn't hear.
I just read out our
Oh,
next
okay,
discussion
okay.
and possible action on phase 1 of
Okay,
the
I asked
Massachusetts
that
Road
to be
Project.
put on the agenda, and I'll tell you why. After we met with Urban Utilities the other afternoon, and he told us that the road was ready to be paved. Well, I've gone down and looked at it again and again. And I don't believe that road can be paved with any satisfaction in the existing condition. I've talked to Mr. Terry Haynes on it a little bit. I'm concerned that if it was paved as it currently exists, you're still gonna have the waves and the valleys and the hills and all that good stuff. That the paving machine will not level it out. I've had a discussion with Grant Summers. He is willing to meet with Kevin and myself in a couple of weeks, take a look at that road and give us his opinion whether or not it can be paved successfully in its existing condition. We want to be sure we get this done correctly the first time. We're only talking about, what is it, 1,400 feet? I don't know, something like that. But whatever we do on this section should be looked at for the remainder of Massachusetts. And it scares me to death that the engineering firm that we're hiring for phase 2 talks about digging stuff up and all this good stuff. And I'm saying, well, here we go. Urban Utilities says they don't want to disturb the trench. They don't want to put the dams in or wings or whatever they call it. They're afraid if they do, it's going to settle. So the person that's got the most experience in this area is Grant Summers. So he's agreed to meet with Kevin and I and give us his 10 cents on it. I want to bring that out and let people know that we are really concerned and we need to do something on it this year, not next year.
If we deviate from the plan that we established with urban utilities and the county,
No,
there may not be any reimbursement for it.
I mean,
So,
we just need to put
It's
the best foot
costing
forward.
us, pardon me?
We just need to put the best foot forward on this.
Well, I am the only mayor since, not Johnny Lynch, obviously. I am the mayor who has said we gotta work on Massachusetts.
Mhm.
And this board has been willing to work on Massachusetts.
Yeah,
It takes time.
Yeah.
And we are trying to do the right thing.
Right.
I don't think we need to jump ahead and go off on tangents when there's a process in place that we're waiting on to happen.
But I don't think we're ready to pave that with what they're recommending.
I think you stated incorrectly that they thought the wing walls would mess up the trench. I don't think they have anything to do with it. I don't remember him saying
They
that.
did not, they were afraid to dig it up. So what's it gonna hurt to get one more person who is probably the most expertise in the area of that?
If you two meet with Grant Summers, that'll have to be an open meeting. You'll have to advertise.
Pardon?
Y'all have to advertise, y'all can't sit and discuss
Yeah,
what you wanna
you
do.
are allowed to do that. Do you remember we went up and looked at their asphalt plant as a group? We're allowed to do that. We are.
You
allowed.
wouldn't meet with me on things earlier
We-
because you said we would be violating open records. I'm just quoting back to you. I'm just quoting back to you.
Totally legal to do this.
Okay,
But you know, it's like Terry, when he was in here, you know, he was talking about that some of the Taylor had new materials, you know, and I mean, I'm new into this, but
well, and
would it hurt to have somebody that's in that business to look at the road? I mean, are we not supposed to do that?
no, that's fine. I've called Grant Summers too, and I've talked to Grant too.
Okay.
It's fine.
I mean, you're like
It's fine.
somebody that's been in that business forever, and it's like, hey, what would you do if it was yours?
That's fine. We're in the process of this application to get this funding from the county to work on one of our roads finally.
Yeah.
The county to pay for it. I
Okay.
personally don't wanna bolt on
No,
that.
you-
So I want them to actually invest some money into our town on our roads.
How much what did Terry, for us to pay that? Did he?
The cost of it was gonna be about 60,000, and the town would have to pay 10% of that as a match.
Is that Terry's quote or the urban utilities?
No, that was the whole thing, urban utilities and the pay,
What is Terry's quote, do you know?
and I don't have that with me.
Mayor, do you
And
have?
I don't
that
know
was,
detail.
that was given to us.
If I'd given a little more update, I might have brought something, but we asked for a little more background and we didn't get any, so we didn't bring anything.
So,
I'm gonna say that was given to me, what, a year ago?
yeah, we've been on the year, right?
And probably it's gone up, as far as asphalt.
Probably.
And
it's not-
The
and
town
it's-
has to pay 10%, and
it's-
that's come out of our ARPA money.
And it's no responsibility of county, urban utilities, or Terry Haynes that everything had this big pushback. What interrupted the progress of this activity and this solution was TDEC changing the rules. It was not any fault of anything the county did or didn't do, or utilities did or didn't do.
Well, when
It's
we met.
unfortunately been processed.
They, I guess that was, what, two, 3 weeks ago, we all met. And Jason Foster, his concern was waiting on a manual that has the guidelines to make sure that he does everything correctly so that we get reimbursed from the ARPA funds. And this is TDEC too, so it's through the county.
But my concern is not that, is that we do the road correctly. And I don't think you can just pave over all that rough stuff and it come out good. Yes, sir.
I'm assuming, Mr. Mayor,
You're giving the audience opportunities. Okay, go
I'm
ahead.
assuming this is
I didn't know.
a BMA meeting, not a workshop session, so that you can
Yes.
entertain a question
Go ahead,
from the floor.
go ahead.
Okay, I've driven that road. There isn't any way in God's green earth that you can run a paver down there and put 2 inches of the cap down on that road and do anything but make the biggest mess you've ever seen in your life. That price, Deb, that you just stated of 60,000, that was a year ago.
I'm gonna guess it was about a year ago.
It's been a while.
We started talking about all this.
You may find that those numbers have changed. And they may have changed significantly. But 1,400 feet, and that section, I've driven that section. And I walked it. And there isn't any way in the world that you can pave what is there now and make it any better. Because of the sinking in the center of the road where the trench was. And the other short-term Band-Aid approaches where they slack some macadam on over here, they got something else on over there. There isn't any way you're gonna be able to straighten that thing out if you laid 6 inches of macadam down, of asphalt down. I mean, it can't be done. It just can't be done. If I'm not in that business, but in order to do that properly, that road's gonna have to be straightened. You know what I mean by that? They're gonna have to come in and take what's there out, address the sinking, and then repay.
Vice
Yeah,
Mayor,
I
are
think
you
that's-
timing our citizens' statement? Vice Mayor, are you timing?
No.
Okay. Incoming timing. All right, thank you. And we have talked about, I've heard straighten, I've heard that come along in the discussion, so I'm aware
And
that
see, the thing about
been
this
consideration.
is, our utilities told us that we should know something by the end of this month. So, so that's pretty quick, and I just took it as we was gonna get somebody's opinion, a different opinion. As far as
No, he would have a
someone's
better,
looking at it, you know what I mean?
we would know something about what it was gonna require to make sure we got the reimbursement from TDEC by the end of the month.
Right. But
First
we
week
know
of
something
August.
by the end of the month. And I just took it as like, Summers told, look, it's just opinions, but, you got your opinion.
County Highway Department may not even want to do it for us anymore anyway.
You know,
County Highway Department may not want to do it for us anyway.
they may not.
Yeah.
You
I mean, there's a whole lot of factors that are still
Yeah.
up in the air. Okay, any more discussion on that?
Nope.
All right, let's move on to reports of officers and committees, economic development. Austin Finch is here.
Not ready to go, or we call the list here?
No, go ahead.
All right, sounds good. I'm not really with it today.
Yeah.
I'm recovering from a sinus infection.
Oh.
Lucky me. Also right during, my capstone presentation too. So, yeah, it's worked out really well. It's good to be back. Been busy summer and spring. We have to get you some updates on what we're doing. So, as I mentioned personally, finishing up this year-long capstone program at Liston University. Where I start again, another program with TBA doing their rural leadership school coming this fall. So always something there. And then last time I had more update you all on an intern that we hired for a temporary position to help us with grant we're working on and to help us with some data collection needs. This may not sound like a big item, but it's actually really huge. He's helped us piece together contact information for every active business in Nuclear County. Again, it sounds like something we should just have already, but no one's ever put the effort into actually making this come about. So that'll give us every active business, about 600 of them, their email addresses, home addresses, and phone numbers, that such information. What we're going to use with that is a company we're working with called Anthill. They do digital surveys, text in, can do like two-way communication, some AI is involved. They're going to help me do a business survey. We can ask every business in Nuclear County, how the government's doing with their responsibilities when it comes to business, how economic development board is doing with our role, and a few other kind of high-level questions. Really just lets us kind of take a pulse on what business activity in the county is like. Then when it comes to industrial visits, we made more progress in the last year than last 10 before that combined, and we're picking up momentum. Even though the one project did not work out, when we wanted to locate Newport here at IMC, they ended up choosing a place in Johnson City with smaller square footage and a lower weight. Not ideal, but it just leaves that property available for us to keep advertising. We already have 2 more leads for that property. It's been listed officially by the Careys through a realtor, but we're still going to try to see if we can facilitate something there. We have something called Project Powder, codename Project Powder by ECD, CDCD. It's a German-based company also. $7 million investment, 35 to 60 jobs above the average wage. We're still waiting on those exact figures to come back, but at least it'd be about 17, 15 hours starting. Then Project Biscuit is another one. And I actually contacted this one directly before the state brought us that project. This is somebody that actually works with the local industry already, has interest in moving here. So we contacted them ahead of time, invited them in. They're a pet food manufacturer, $1 million investment, 35 jobs, $18 an hour starting. The average wage would be $25 to $30 an hour. So both those could be fits for the IMC building. We'll see there. Still trying to pitch 2nd Street in Irwin for anybody interested. The project that was kind of leading the way there is still delayed. Waiting to see where we're going from here. But we're getting creative with other items too on how that property best create jobs in the county as a whole. Some marketing efforts. We're making improvements to that Real Wild website. Doing daily trip plans in Unicoi County, including stops in Unicoi. Doing some WJHL commercials to advertise the county when people come visit, spend their money, mainly just focusing on the Tri-Cities at this point. We're also doing a hotel study as well. I know a lot of people have asked, why are we not helping more on that side of things? Basically, this study will figure out if there is demand, and who might be a good target for us to try to recruit to the area. And as far as next meetings go, we're gonna do, board meeting August 16th. Anybody who's interested in coming to that, and I'll be sending out a reminder to everybody, so typically on the invite list, but I'd love for anybody else who's interested in coming to open meeting and see what we're doing there. And kind of just wrapping up, as economic development, we work for county employees as well as kind of everyone in Unicoi County, everybody in this community. And we'll make sure that I'm doing my best to serve this board. So I'd love to hear more at some point. If you want to do one-on-one meetings, we do a group meeting, whatever it is, so I can understand, your goals, your vision, really what I can do. I think I've been given marching orders in a more clear direction in some places. I feel like sometimes we may miss our chance to really figure out what we should be doing together. So we should, have that conversation at some point and figure out, what our next steps are as well. So, are there any questions from the board? Anybody else? Cool. Looking forward to going back to sleep.
Thank you, officers. All right, Buffalo Valley Historic Association.
I gave you a little thing where we're doing the back to school, back to school thing. We're having a reading at the cabin. It'll be the last night, Thursday night at 7:00. And the topic's going to be about why gardening and agriculture is important around. And then we'll have the kids, they do an activity. The last one they had was about the music. And they went around and marched around the cabin and had the drums and the fife and stuff like that. The kids really enjoyed it. We had a good time. And we have refreshments, and I heard that there might be watermelon Thursday night.
You heard me.
Yeah, and the 29th, we're doing the ice cream social, back to school, bash, and we'll need the donations for school supplies and whatever, the schools need, and what we don't use or what we don't give out to the kids that day, we're going to take it to the school and let the school give it to the ones that need it. So, and then on August the 1st, we'll be out there doing a thorough cleaning of the cabin. We'll clean the cabin so it will be good. And then one day next month, we're going to be fixing some chair bottles.
Chair bottles, can?
Not candy, no. We'll do rope.
Okay, broken, okay, all right, cool. All right, rope,
Chain chair.
not cane and rope. All right, planning commission.
The Town of Unicoi Board of Zoning Appeals met on Monday, July 3rd, 2023, under new business temporary use permit for RV residents 6 months prior to and during construction submitted by Warren and Andrea Flax for property located at 200 Shepherd's Branch Court, Unicoi, Tennessee. This was the third request and was denied by the board on June 5th, 2023. Mrs. Flax was unable to attend the June 5th BZA meeting and requested to come before the board in July. The board voted unanimously again to deny the request due to there not being enough progress on the building site. The board also voted unanimously to give Mrs. Flax until August 30th, 2023 to live in her RV, and after that time, she can move it back to her home site in the back and not live in it. And if it's violated, it will be a $50 fine per day. Under old business was a variance request for a utility building submitted by Nathan Persky for property located at 150 Fox Chase Lane, Unicoi, Tennessee. The request was unanimously approved due to the small acreage of land, he was granted a 10-foot variance from the property line due to being a hardship clause. And under new business was a variance request for a utility building submitted by Kevin McIntyre for property located on Zane Whitson Road, Unicoi, Tennessee. The board voted unanimously to approve a 5-foot variance. And the board amended the agenda to add Carol McGee for a variance request due to a time restraint on her selling her property at 110 Fairway Point, Unicoi, Tennessee. The board voted unanimously to approve a 4-foot variance along with a 15-foot front variance. And then there was no Unicoi Planning Commission meeting in July due to lack of agenda.
Thank you. Moving along.
I do have a comment on one of our next, maybe you talked about first, the ladies where you gave the extensions.
Yeah.
Our planning code says before you can put a trailer on the site, you gotta have all utilities. They did not have a septic line, so they just got to put in recently. So they should never even have the trailer parked there to start with.
Remember, it started out on the street.
Pardon?
It started out, it was on the street. Remember?
Yeah.
And then they moved it.
Well, and then I think Dwight Harold tried to work with her, the different things, and I think now that we've dealt with her, and now I think she understands we've got to finish into it, so.
Well, I don't know, she didn't even know which was the front of her property.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah. But I think as far as telling her, showing her what we're, the restrictions, and then that we would follow up on that, I think that we made it clear,
Right. But, in the future, we need to be careful not to give permits if they don't have all.
Well, I think
facilities.
she already had a lot of things already done when she started, before she became to anybody who she was doing
Right.
anything to begin with.
All right, thank you. Madam Roberts Kitchen.
So this was my first time doing the Mountain Harvest Kitchen report, so, in June, the Mountain Harvest Kitchen was running for 122 hours, through 7 processing movers, and you can see that breakdown. And then you see the year based on the month. I had to dig a little bit for this, so, it took me a while. But for this year, the hours rented was 122, 7 processing clients. The hour revenue was $2,721. Our storage clients, we had 9 of them. Our storage revenue was $540, with the total revenue being $2,634. So Braden left and I took over. And just a few things to add. I signed up as a new food truck user last week, and I took my ServSafe manager certification this morning. That's good.
Or did he leave early? He was
No.
supposed to stay on until I thought June the 30th.
He did.
Okay, I just looked at your note and said he left.
Yeah, no, that was kind of, for the BMA report, we look back at the previous, but since this is all the way kind of into July, I just added that.
You said you passed with a 97.
Yes.
She made honor roll.
I was
Right.
higher than my mom's score.
Oh, gosh, okay. Boy, rub that in for a while. All right, you've got, Parks and Rec as well.
Yes, so this year's Freedom Fest was a huge success. There was about 8,000 in attendance. All the bands were great, and traffic was cleared out in under 20 minutes thanks to our police department. 30? I heard 20. We'll give you 20. We'll be doing our back to school blowout in, July 29th with the ice cream social, that'll be from 4 to 7. We'll have water in yard games for kids of all ages, and the Buffalo Valley Historic Association will have the old fashioned ice cream. We'll be collecting it in the school supplies, like I mentioned. I did speak with the fire department, and they might be able to as well have another day for the kids, but that's still kind of up in the air.
Where are you having it? Because you don't have it on here.
That is gonna be at the cabinet.
Okay, very good.
It's this right here.
Yes.
Okay,
Well, that's for the school supplies.
Well, but it's down in here, it's described down in there.
The next, event we'll be doing is a food truck rally, and at the time of our this, we didn't have all the details, but we'll be partnering with Brandon, who was the director of the kitchen and his group of food trucks, which is the Tennessee and Virginia Food Truck Association. We'll have a rally up here at the Tourist Center. The date is August 10th from 4 to 8 p.m. 10% of sales from each food truck will be going to the animal shelter. The animal shelter will also be set up here to have t-shirts or take other donations as well. Still working on that with them, exactly what they'll be doing. And then one more thing to add is the Chamber of Commerce posted a ribbon cutting for Big Island Events today. And that was a success. And we just want to thank them for letting us be able to be a part of that. I know Kevin Nagy is from there.
I heard he didn't go to Blaze. Thank you, Laura. Thank you. All right, police.
As far as this month, we've got 14 tickets, when we go enforcement, 8 incident reports, 2 arrests, 4 breaks. We have pretty good, pretty fast, pretty much without, nobody went to jail, so it's good. We assisted the county multiple occasions, with the flag break down here. We actually replaced a lot of the church around Answer County College. So we went out and helped the guys, and actually they got in, had 3 subjects run over here Friday afternoon, and called for help, we were assisting.
Thank you. Cool. Thank you. All right, municipal court report.
For the month of June, we took in $2,081.25. We had $161.76 in litigation tax. Department of Safety fines, $72.45. Municipal training and education fees, $12.35. And the CSI fees were $350, so the net disbursement was $1,484.95. We have a total of 14 tickets. 1 was for proof of insurance, and 13 were for speeding.
Last, police department, we had a cover state that the alcohol beverage commission with all the alcohol sales here in the town. 4 out of 5, done great. We had one that actually sold to underage, and they had been cited. ABC will be, going in and finding that store and stuff, and we took the criminal charges against the subject.
All right. All right. Okay, I guess we are now ready for the reporters.
Okay, I wanted to mention that we did do a budget amendment for the month of July. And Mayor Bullock had mentioned about doing a check for the animal shelter for $1,500. So we did have budgeted the $2,000 for the Unicorn Church of God Food Bank. So I moved $1,500 to the animal shelter line item and then $500 to the miscellaneous donations. So that is now a 0 for the food pantry. We also did the check for the data backup retrieval service that was the archive that Laura did, and we took $2,000 from the advertising economic development and $2,688 from the facade grant in the economic development section of the budget.
Okay.
In the city reporters report, some of you all already know some of this stuff, but we've had a lot of calls, on the for the north end of town, different, situations with the storm and the water damage and everything. Terry had completed the Springbrook paving, it's been replacement grade and 80 feet of pipe, but what has happened now from all the water from the private road, which is Rose Hill, a lot of that gravel has just gone down to that basin. I think Roger may be familiar with that. That's the situation that we've got now. I'm supposed to go in the morning with Terry Haynes to go and look at some of these things, and I did look at several today with Nick. So we have an issue at Cattle Creek, and I think Roger again has looked at that as well. And it looks to me like he has moved a lot of dirt around to the left of his house. And I think that's been going on. It almost looks like he's been building something up there too.
For years.
Or, some kind of, looks like a couple of buildings to the left, and a lot of dirt's been moved around, a lot of mudslides. That drain tile may be stopped up too, that was put in a few minutes ago. So we're gonna take a look at that as well. There's some, tile damage at Fagan, the tile going underneath the bridge. Tony had been out today and gone over, wrote down some things that will need to be fixed. I mean, there's a lot of areas, Stone Tree, Springbrook, and Marbleton and back at Hensley. Part of the road is just washed out, gas lines exposed. So we've got a lot of issues that we're going to have to deal with as far as damage from the storm. But yeah, we talked about Massachusetts, and Jason was waiting on outlines, a manual at the end of July, to make sure that he does the reimbursement forms, working with First Tennessee Development District, making sure that that's all done correct. We have the 2 windows at Town Hall should be replaced at the end of this week. The police building is still doing some cosmetic work on the inside, but almost finished with that as well. We did receive a letter from the Tennessee Housing Development that we did get approved for the 2023 home program. And that is in the amount of $250,000 with the project being at $235,000. So in other words, we can do about $235,000 worth of work to different houses in the town of Unicorn. The $15,000 is an administration fee that we'll have to pay to First Tennessee Development. We're going to find out all about how all this works and how it's done on July the 20th, because Kathy will be going to Murfreesboro, and she'll be learning exactly what we need to do to get reimbursement and make this all work for different households. Yes. We were going to do the training tomorrow for Title VI. This is something that's required by the town. Actually, anybody that works for employees, the mayor, to get Title VI training. If you have any kind of grants, it's a requirement. I think we're rescheduling that to probably the day after that, or possibly after that this week. She's got things going on in the kitchen. And that's all I have for the report.
Sometime you need to schedule FEMA training, let's get that.
Okay.
That's a big deal.
So required training.
Yeah. It is.
Well, and that needs to be scheduled from our representative from the state of Tennessee.
All right, financial report.
On the balance sheet on the general fund, our current cash is at $1,696,634. Right now, at the end of June, our ARPA funds are $717,810. And our Snyder investment endowment is $132,000. And we have a certificate of deposit that's $117,493. I think I told you all, probably when the last capital plan account that's done, that's being taken out of the bank account at Bank Tennessee. We'll close that account and they'll have probably around $90,000. We'll move that to Mount Promise Bank. And, maybe you all can think about maybe doing another certificate of deposit, since the interest rate's pretty good right now. I think it's over 5% at local government that we're getting on the ARPA money and the money that we have coming in. So, for the month of June, our year-to-date revenue is $1,925,636. For the month of June, we took $84,345. Our expenditures for June were $223,733, and year-to-date, $1,724,709. So our net income loss for June was $39,428, and year-to-date, we're at a positive $200,976. These are not final numbers because I'm still doing year-end drawings. But I think we're about there. We're still paying bills for, the month, the year, the other fiscal year and the year we're in right now. So it's kind of working in both years still at this point. As far as the kitchen for the month of June, our revenue is $2,695, and the expenses were $3,996. So there's a net income loss of $1,301. Year to date, the revenue was $41,268, and expenditures were $56,785. So we have a year-to-date loss of $15,517. Kitchen. For the drug fund, the balance sheet, as you all recall, we had about $12,210 in seized funds pending. There was funds seized, $11,100, January the 31st of 23, and they were awarded to us May the 3rd, 2023, and so we're now able to remove those funds from being seized funds pending to being actual part of the fund balance of the drug fund. And as far as the month for the drug fund, there was no activity. Year-to-date, we're at $142 in revenue. And then we'll move to the local option sales tax. For the year 22-23, we're at $925,882, which is a decrease from the previous year of $70,761. Previous year was $996,643, and that's local option. And then for state shared, for the year, we're at $454,073, which was an increase of $26,572 from the previous year. We were at $427,501.
All right. Is there a motion and a second to approve the financial report?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Any further discussion? Ms. Kessler, call for the vote, please.
Alderman Lennon,
Yes.
Alderman McIntosh,
Yes.
Alderman Bradford,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Fisher.
Yes.
Mayor Wolf.
Yes. All right, any other announcements? Any sort of announcements? Hearing none, is there a motion for adjournment?
Motion to adjourn.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
We are adjourned. You never are. You will stay. You are never in favor.